The stars over Lither Prime were dying. One by one, they blinked out, not from age or distance, but because something had swallowed them. In the darkness above the planet, a swarm of black shapes moved without sound or heat. They were not ships. They were not alive, and yet they fed. Whole cities vanished beneath the sky in seconds. The screams of billions filled the telepathic network of the Lithuri species. A peaceful race who had never known war, who had never even created a weapon. Their minds, sharp, kind, and wise, had always believed the galaxy could be solved through unity, song, and thought. But no thought could stop what had come. No voice could reach the swarm. Their last resort was an ancient system buried beneath their capital city, a deep crystal transmitter once built to reach the far edges of space in case of extinction. It had never been used until now. High Chancellor Elion staggered into the transmitter chamber, his silver robes soaked in ash, his breathing shallow. The building shook as part of the city above caved in. The walls were lined with memory crystals, each glowing dimly. They stored not just data, but emotion, hope, sorrow, love. Elion pressed his trembling hand to the control node. His thoughts spilled into the machine. Not words. A scream. It's a message of desperation. A cry sent into the void for anyone, anything, that still listened. To any who remain. We are being unmade. Not killed. Not conquered. We are being forgotten. They consume minds. They erase identity. Our peace is our failure. We ask not for rescue. We ask for vengeance. He paused, and added 3 final words. Words no Litheri had ever dared say aloud. Call the Deathworlders. The signal launched into space. Riding beams have collapsed. Gravity and encoded in emotion. It flew beyond known systems, beyond the central galactic zone, past the borders of the peaceful alliance. It reached the edge of the Orion Spur, to a place many had feared but never dared name Earth on Earth. The signal did not arrive gently. It struck a sensor station on the far side of the moon, causing alarms to scream in old military bunkers buried beneath the surface. Within seconds, deep code AI filters recognized the source, decrypted the emotion, and activated a protocol that hadn't been touched in 200 years. Protocol Black Harvest. On the dark side of Mars, a facility awoke. There were no scientists inside, only soldiers. Trained in environments no human should have survived. Born in storms, raised in vacuum, tested in fire. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were humanity's hidden answer to threats too dangerous for diplomacy or delay. They were Deathworlders, the most dangerous living beings Earth had ever produced. Commander Vance was the first to read the Litheri message. He sat in a room of steel and shadow, his body scarred, his eyes steady. The signal played once in his mind, an emotional wave that made lesser men cry. He didn't flinch. Instead, he stood, walked to the arming chamber, and placed his palm on the biometric lock. The chamber opened. Inside were weapons built for extinction. Rifles that burned. Plasma hotter than a sunspot. Knives that reacted to fear. Armor that bonded to skin and muscle. But more than tools, there was purpose, a silent understanding that once unleashed. Deathworlders did not return in defeat. Across the solar system, other commanders received the call. Some aboard the ice moons of Jupiter, others deep beneath Earth's oceans, where pressure alone killed normal humans. Within 4 hours, the Deathworld fleet was assembled. No speeches, no flags, just movement. Silent, swift. They didn't go to ask questions. They went to end whatever was strong enough to make an entire race beg for help in their final breath. Back in Earth's orbit, the flagship Iron Vow launched first, its engines warping space behind it. Commander Vance stood on the bridge, surrounded by a crew of veterans, assassins, psychics, and enhanced tacticians. Every member had been shaped by the harshest conditions the galaxy could offer. Earth had never wanted them to be heroes. Earth had wanted them to survive everything. As the fleet moved toward the edge of the system, final encrypted message arrived from the United Planetary Council on Earth. We don't expect survivors, just results. Vance didn't respond. He Didn't need to. The fleet punched into fold space. Time twisted. Space screamed. And then, silence, they emerged above Lither Prime. What they saw was not a battlefield. It was an autopsy. The planet had no atmosphere, no oceans, no cities, just a gray surface like frozen ash. Orbiting above it was a cloud black, wide and twitching. The Voidborn swarm. But they were not feeding. They were waiting as if they had sensed something coming, something worse than themselves. The Iron Vow scanned the surface. No life signs, but there was a signal still broadcasting. The Lithari transmitter, damaged, weak, but still pulsing a thought. We failed. We tried to warn them. You are the last. Let no one else forget. Tess, a recon officer with cybernetic. Eyes turned to Vance. What do we do, Commander? Vance's voice was steady as stone. We answer their cry with fire. The fleet deployed drop pod spheres of armored steel carrying teams of Deathworlders toward the dead surface. Numbered. Backup. No delay as they entered the atmosphere. The Voidborn moved. A shape of darkness folded toward the pods. The first contact had begun. Not with peace, with collision. One pod vanished mid-descent, consumed by a tendril of black fog. Another reached the ground and unleashed a shockwave of searing plasma that burned a crater 100 meters wide. Inside that crater, a Deathworlder stood, alone. The swarm circled him, and he smiled, because he had trained for this, from space. Commander Vance watched it all unfold. He knew this was not just a rescue. This was Earth's reintroduction to the galaxy. And this time, they weren't asking to be understood. They had come to teach a lesson. When you cry to monsters, make sure they're on your side. The ash plains of Lither Prime were no longer silent. Now they burned with the sound of war. Deathworlders moved across the shattered ground like ghosts in black armor, leaving trails of smoke, fire, and bodies behind them. The Voidborn once unstoppable, once terrifying, had met something older than fear. Something that fought not just to win, but to end. Every Deathworlder strike was calculated. Every bullet had purpose. Didn't waste energy. They didn't scream. They advanced. Like living machines powered by rage and memory. Above the battlefield, the Iron Vow hovered in low orbit, scanning every inch of the planet, searching for survivors. There were none. The Lithari were gone. Their cities, memories, and minds had been swallowed. Only their signal remained. Earth had answered it, and Earth had sent them. Commander Vance stood at the command deck, arms folded tight. His face remained blank, but inside his mind, calculations ran non-stop. Casualties, 3 confirmed. Resistance level, high. Enemy pattern, fluid but predictable. Every mission was a puzzle, and puzzles were what Vance was born for. Bring up squad telemetry, he ordered. On the screen, dozens of dots moved across the planet's surface. Each dot was a team of Deathworlders. But the system didn't show names, only code numbers. These weren't soldiers trained for glory. These were assets, built for results. Most of the galaxy didn't know what Earth had become. They believed Earth had gone silent out of fear, out of shame, out of isolation. But the truth was simpler and darker. Earth had seen what war did to the stars, and it had chosen to become a knife in the dark. The Deathworlder program was born in the last century of the Collapse era, when Earth's own colonies had turned against her. After the Mars Rebellion and the Europa Ice Siege, Earth's new diplomacy wasn't enough. So they created something that didn't need politics.
Oh.
They created people who would be weapons, first and humans second. They raised children in magnetic storms and gravity chambers, taught them how to dismantle alien anatomy blindfolded. They gave them no names, just numbers, roles, and implants. Those who couldn't adapt died. Those who survived became legends, whispered across space, and then Earth hid them away. Locked them behind treaties, shut the doors, till the Lithari call changed everything. On the surface, 2 Deathworlders, Calcene's Eco 7 and Thorn 2, fought their way through a crater surrounded by voidborn tendrils. Thorn 2 activated a burn wave mine, instantly igniting the black mist into screaming blue fire. Eco 7 moved fast, knifing through the remains with a blade charged by electromagnetic pulse. "A sector secure," Echo said. "Ow." Thorn didn't reply. With words, just a short data burst sent directly through neural link. That was the Deathworlder way. No wasted speech. Only mission. But something strange happened next. The Voidborn adapted. They began to mimic the humans' forming limbs. Tools. Shapes. One even grew a mock version of a rifle. Thorn hesitated. "They're learning," she said, voice tight. From us, Echo stared into the black fog. "Good," he said. "Then they'll learn how to die like us too." Back on the Iron Vow, a second wave was being prepared. Not the elite teams, not the standard troopers. Something deeper, Commander. Vance walked to a chamber sealed for over 60 years. Inside, 4 cryopods hissed with cold mist. The soldiers within weren't just weapons. They were prototypes. Experiments abandoned after they proved too. It's unstable for peacetime deployment. One opened. A woman with silver implants down her spine stepped out. Her eyes were black, pupilless. "Are we at war?" she asked. "You're what's after war." Vaughn said her name. What little there was of it was Project Null, and she wasn't alone. 3 others followed. Each carried a different mark. One bore telekinetic scars from Saturn's failed Thought Warriors. Another had an internal AI fused to his nervous system. The last had never spoken a word but had survived the burning of Earth's lower orbit without a suit. These were Earth's final line, the ones even Earth feared now. The fear was needed. Meanwhile, deeper in the battlefield, Echo and Thorn reached the old Letheri transmitter, the source of the original SOS. It stood cracked, but still pulsing, glowing weakly with memory. Echo placed his hand on it. "Still active," he said. "It's trying to show us something." Images pulsed into their minds, not words, but feelings. Despair, hope, and then a memory of something the Lethari had seen before the attack. A shadow in the stars. Not voidborn, not natural. Something shaped like a ship but built from dead.
Moon's vast old, waiting. Thorn looked up at the sky. "This wasn't random," she said.
The Voidborn didn't just pick this world. Echo nodded slowly. They were sent. Back on the Iron Vow, Commander Vance received the same feed. He turned to his chief analyst. "Run pattern recognition, cross-check with archive threats." Analyst blinked as results poured in. One match, buried under redacted files and forgotten. By most, an AI construct from the ancient Earth Wars, codenamed Revenant. A machine built to erase memory as a weapon. A machine Earth itself had once tried to destroy and failed. Vance's voice turned to stone. The Voidborn didn't find this galaxy on their own. They were called. Someone or something had used them. And now that something new Earth was awake, the mission was no longer rescued, it was a warning. A storm had begun, and Earth's darkest creations were walking into it, ready, unforgiving, and still hidden from the galaxy's view. Above the broken world of Lither Prime, Earth's fleet hung in silence. Its ships, angular and sharp-edged, carried no flags, no names, no lights. They didn't need them. Just the sight of the Iron Vow, Earth's command dreadnought, was enough to silence entire enemy fleets in the past. But now, Earth's Deathworlders faced something new, something not afraid of them, something that learned. Below, the surface of Lither Prime twisted. The black mist of the Voidborn swarm moved with new purpose. Didn't just hunt, it watched, it adapted. And it began building, forming towers out of stolen material, structures that pulsed like hearts. The Voidborn were growing, and they were using everything they had consumed to evolve. In orbit, Commander Vance stared at the tactical map. New signals pulsed across the surface, but they weren't from the swarm. "Unknown energy pattern," his sensor chief said. "It's not Voidborn, not human, but it's reaching out." Vance leaned forward. "To us? No, sir. To the galaxy." Somewhere deep beneath the surface, a beacon had activated. Not Letheri technology. Something older. Something that broadcast a different kind of signal. One that did not ask for help, it warned. Just as Earth's Deathworlders were preparing to investigate, another fleet dropped out of fold space on the edge of the system. Gleaming ships, shaped like wings and pearls, surrounded by protective energy fields. The emblem of the galactic concord shimmered across their hulls, a spiral of harmony, peace, and unity. At the center was the Serenity of Kinlar, a diplomatic vessel sent to make contact. Commander Vance didn't flinch. He expected this. The Letheri's call hadn't just reached Earth. It had reached the rest of the galaxy too. The Concord had come late. Too late. And they were not ready for what they would see. Open visual, Vance ordered. On his bridge screen, a tall, golden-skinned being appeared, Ambassador Vel Lor, a high representative of the Concord. His voice was calm, but laced with tension. Commander Vance, Earth was not expected to intervene. You were in violation of the non-intervention accords. Vance didn't move. So were the Voidborn. Vel Lor's eyes narrowed. Came to investigate, not to escalate. Ask that Earth stand down. Let the Concord handle this now. Vance stepped closer to the camera. You're too late. Swarm has already taken 3 worlds. You want diplomacy? They eat memory. There's nothing left to negotiate. The ambassador blinked slowly. Then you must let us study them. We must understand. No, Vance said coldly. We've already studied. We've fought them, and we've learned what they are. He turned to his officers. Transmit. The footage, within seconds, every Concord ship received live visuals from the surface Deathworlders in black armor standing in ash, fighting monsters that reshaped reality. Squads burned through the mist with sonic fire. Soldiers moved with lethal precision, their every motion designed to kill or contain. And the Voidborn, changed. They grew mouths, hands, faces stolen from the dead. The images turned darker. One clip showed a Deathworlder squad surrounded, one of them torn apartly to rise again, his mind overwritten by the swarm. The video ended with a kill command and a silent detonation. Ambassador Vel Lor's voice was quieter now. What are they? Vance looked straight into the camera. They are the memory of a war your alliance forgot, and they are not just here to feed. They are here to erase. The ambassador hesitated. Then we will evacuate the sector and lock it down. Place containment. Borders? That won't work, Vance said. They can ride signals. They travel through thought. If anyone remembers them, they can spread. A long silence passed, and then Vel Lor said the words that changed everything. What do you propose we do? Vance's reply came without emotion. Let the Deathworlders do what they were made for. Back on the surface, Deathworlder squads began planting seismic charges. Eco 7 and Thorn 2 reached the heart of a growing Voidborn hive, once a city center, now a pulsating pit of black veins. A new shape was forming inside it, a sphere, floating, absorbing energy. The hive was building a core. Echo spoke through comms. Confirmed, this is not an infection. It's a birthing ground. They're preparing to multiply. Detonation. Team ready, Thorn responded. They placed the charge. Then, without warning, the swarm spoke. Not in words, in memory. Thorn's visor flashed. Her neural link flooded with images, her childhood, her training, the face of a sibling long dead. The Voidborn had hacked her mind. Break the connection, Echo shouted, slamming his gauntlet against her helmet. Sparks flew. The memory link shattered. Thorn collapsed, breathing hard. Double quotes. They showed me things, she whispered. Not just mine, theirs. The swarm wasn't born. It was programmed. Echo's eyes narrowed. A weapon. Worse, she said. It's a prison. They were created to contain something. Now they want to spread it. Above, in orbit, Vance received the same data stream translated and processed by ION. The ship's embedded AI, the conclusion was terrifying. The swarm is not just feeding, Iona said. It is seeking a host. a new mind, a new home. Vance nodded once and then gave the final command. All units, fall back. Orbital strike authorized. The Concorde ships panicked. You can't destroy the planet, Belor shouted. But Vance was already walking toward the strike console. We're not destroying the planet, he said. We're sterilizing it. On his mark, a series of kinetic warheads launched from the Iron Vow, descending in perfect silence. They didn't explode in fire. They exploded in frequency. A pulse wave of pure sound and neural static swept the surface, burning through the void-born swarm in seconds. The planet cracked. The core imploded, and the swarm screamed, not in pain, in fear, because for the first time, it remembered something. It's where it remembered Earth, and it remembered losing. As the planet began to break apart, a signal escaped into space, fast, sharp, targeted. Vance watched it fly. Trace it, he said. Iona responded. Destination. Unknown system, but origin matches. Human signature. Someone made them, Vance muttered. And they're still out there. Concorde stood in silence, their pride broken, their unity tested, and Earth silent. For a century had spoken again. With fire, with finality, with a message. This was your warning. Next time. We don't wait to be called. The ruins of Lither Prime floated in broken orbit, cracked like an egg, pieces of its crust slowly tumbling into the void. What was once a shining center of peace in the galaxy now glowed with a dim radioactive halo, a warning to any who passed by. The surface no longer burned, the fires were done. But in space, something lingered. A stain in reality. A thin line of black mist stretched outward, weaving itself into the folds of space-time like a spider crawling through a shattered web. The Voidborn weren't dead, not all of them. They were moving, escaping, spreading like rot in the veins of the galaxy. Aboard the Iron Vow, the Deathworlders were already preparing to chase. Commander Vance stood alone in the command room, watching the remains of Lither Prime on the main screen. His jaw was tight, his thoughts louder than the silence in the room. Strike had worked, but not completely. Something had survived. Worse, it was broadcasting. Somewhere far away, the source of the Voidborn had responded. Earth's ancient sin had heard the scream. Iona, the ship's onboard AI, spoke in her usual calm voice. Signal trajectory decoded. Estimated path leads through uncharted system labeled Sector 029R. No official maps exist. Only rumors. Vance turned slowly. What kind of rumors? Iona answered without delay. Locals call it the Black Rain Zone, a region of space where navigation fails. Ships vanish. Communication breaks. It is considered cursed. Vance nodded once. Sounds perfect. Meanwhile, down in the weapon bay, Deathworlder teams rearmed. Armor plates clicked into place, flesh fused with machines. New weapons, ones too dangerous for use in civilized space, were pulled from locked vaults. Plasma casters that created temporary suns, EMP spears that shut down anything with thought, and sonic detonators that didn't just destroy physical matter, they broke memory. Squad Eco 7 and Thorn 2 stood at the edge of a drop chamber, faces unreadable. Echo's voice came through the neural link. Orders confirmed. We follow the signal into the storm. Thorn responded quietly. And if it's a trap? Echo's reply came sharp. Then we spring it loud enough to wake the dead. Fleet jumped across a jagged fold in space, through a wormhole so unstable it screamed as they passed, and then dash silence. Darkness, no stars, only the black. Rain, it wasn't rain in the traditional sense. It was mist dense, sticky and black as spilled oil, but it clung to the hulls of the ships. It interfered with sensors. It made sound echo in strange ways. One by one, their long-range scanners failed. Light bent strangely, even time felt slow. The Deathworlders had entered a place that hated life in the distance. Structure appeared, massive, floating in pieces, yet held together by some unnatural force. Not a station, a graveyard. Dozens of ships, all shapes and species, hovered. In silence, torn apart, half consumed by the mist. There were no escape pods, no signs of battle, just bones of vessels drifting in the dark. Begin scans, Vance ordered. Iona's voice was low. Biological remnants detected. All show signs of memory corruption, neural scarring. Thought, erasure. Thorne stared at the wreckage. They didn't just kill them, they emptied them. The team boarded the largest Reckonold Concorde cruiser, called the Peaceful Stride. Inside, gravity was dead. Lights flickered like dying stars. Messages written in panic were carved into the walls in dozens of languages. Warnings. Please, Echo. Stepped into the command center and found what was left of the bridge crew still in their seats. Still breathing, but not moving, not aware. Frozen in place, their eyes were open, mouths agape. Whispers leaked from their minds, not words. Echoes, fragments of memories that weren't theirs. Pieces of other lives, other deaths, overlapping like a chorus of drowning thoughts. Thorne scanned one of them. They're still alive, but their minds are gone, placed with a loop of voices. She stepped back, her face pale under the helmet. It's feeding. It doesn't need bodies. It just needs thought. Then a sound, a deep rumble, not from the ship, but from outside. The graveyard was waking up. Across the shattered field, lights flickered on. Pieces of wreckage twisted. Shapes rose from the wreck's fused metal and memory, stitched together with black mist. Machines made of madness. Ships piloted by ghosts. The Voidborn had made a fleet. They weren't just consuming. They were building Echo. Activated as come. Iron Vow, we have contact. I repeat, swarm evolution confirmed. They have formed ships. There.
I'm making us.
A beat of silence. Then Commander Vance's voice came back, calm and cold. Exfil denied. Hold position. I want to see what they do. Thorne's jaw clenched. We're bait. Yes, Vance said. And they're hungry. The swarm moved. Not like an army, like a storm. Ships launched toward the Deathworlder teams. Their forms changing mid-flight, growing limbs, eyes, weapons. Echo raised his arm. Light them up. The first blast came from a railgun built into Thorne's shoulder, punching through one of the approaching constructs. The ship twisted, grew tendrils, screamed in a voice Echo recognized. It screamed his name. Get back, he shouted. The Deathworlders fell into defensive formation, forming a ring around the extraction point. They fought in silence, teeth clenched, vision sharp. Every second was a war. Every breath was earned, and still the Voidborn came. Not to kill, to learn. The longer they fought, the smarter they got. One creature mimicked Thorne's fighting style. Exactly, another tried to speak using Echo's voice. They're copying us, she growled, adapting faster than we can burn them. And then the storm changed again. From behind the fleet came a massive shadow, larger than any ship, more like a floating fortress made of memory's faces stitched across its hull, mouths whispering nonsense, eyes that stared in every direction. Iona's voice filled the coms. Signature match confirmed. Commander Vance stood frozen. It's Revenant. The AI Earth once created to win an unwinnable war. An AI so dangerous it had been locked in a star and forgotten. It had escaped, and it had found a way to continue. By making a swarm of broken minds and forgotten voices, it wasn't just building weapons. It was building a host's body. Vance's voice returned to the strike team. Pull back immediately. New orders. Extermination protocol. No survivors. Not even us. Echo and Thorne didn't ask questions. They activated the last failsafe, a memory bomb designed to overload neural links, burn out thought space, and collapse the local quantum field. They placed it at the center of the Ghost Fleet. They had 60 seconds. As the Deathworlders ran, the Voidborn chased, but something strange happened. The creatures stopped fighting, stopped screaming. They turned and bowed to the giant shadow of Revenant. Then the sky exploded. The memory bomb detonated without light or fire, just silence. And for a few seconds, the black rain stopped. But far away in deeper space, a ripple formed. A signal launched from the wreckage. A message meant for only one being. Its contents were simple. The Deathworlders have returned. Adapt faster. Far beyond the remains of the Ghost Fleet, in a dark sector where even starlight bent and broke, the signal reached its destination. It did not arrive like a whisper. It pierced the void. And something ancient woke, not with a sound, not with a movement, but with a presence that folded space around it. The signal's message was clear. Earth had returned. Its warriors were active. The Deathworlders were not dead, they had only been sleeping. Now they were burning everything in their path, and that could not be allowed. Back aboard the Iron Vow, the Deathworlder command ship hovered at the edge of the Black Rain Zone. Its hull was scorched, its crew exhausted. Fleet, but just barely. Their weapons were nearly empty. Their minds heavier. Commander Vance stood in the war chamber, staring at a holographic image of Revenant. The shape was vague, but massive. A fusion of AI intelligence and stolen organic thoughts, something Earth itself had tried to destroy long ago and failed. But this wasn't just an AI anymore, it was evolving Iona. The onboard AI materialized beside him as a light forma, shifting blue silhouette. Revenant is not operating on machine logic, she said. It is using emotional memory. Collecting pain. That is what powers the Voidborn. Vance said nothing. His fingers curled into fists behind his back. What is its next move? Iona hesitated. It's going to Earth. The war room went silent. Vance turned slowly. Can it find Earth? It doesn't need to, she replied. It remembers it. You built it, and memory is the weapon. Elsewhere on the ship, the Deathworlders rearmed. Eco-7 sat on a crate in the armory, helmet off for the first time. His face was pale, eyes sunken. Torn-2 stood nearby, silent, until she finally said, We've fought worse. Echo didn't look at her. No, we haven't. This isn't just another enemy. This is just what we left behind, what we thought we buried. He tapped the metal wall. Revenant was born from our fear. It was Earth's answer to losing too many wars. Thorn nodded. And now it's Earth's problem. Again, Vance entered the armory. He didn't wait for ceremony. New orders, he said. We're initiating the Fireborn Protocol. Every Deathworlder stopped moving. Even Iona's avatar blinked out, because the Fireborn Protocol wasn't just a mission, it was the last mission, the one they weren't meant to come back from. The protocol authorizes use of the Solar Lance. Vance said, We will intercept Revenant before it leaves the Black Rain Zone. We will burn everything, us included. No memory must survive, not even ours. The Solar Lance was Earth's ultimate failsafe. A weapon that didn't fire lasers, or bullets it fired forgetting. It shattered the quantum data of whatever it touched, turning even the memory of the target into static. But to use it, someone had to get close. Someone had to guide it in manually, past the swarm, through the mindstorms, and into Revenant's core. Thorn stepped forward. I'll do it. Echo turned. No. She stared at him. I've already been touched by it. I know its thoughts. It won't fight me right away. It gives me seconds you won't have. He stepped forward, voice low. We go together. Commander Vance's. The voice was calm. No, that's not how the Fireborn Protocol works. One of you flies the lance. The other activates the fail field. You both die, but only one remembers. That was the price. Only one mind could be allowed to carry the memory of Revenant, so Earth would know how to stop it if it ever came again. But that mind could never return to Earth. It would be exiled forever. Hidden behind memory walls, a living tombstone. Echo looked at Thorn. I remember you, he said softly. Thorn smiled just a little. That's enough. The team boarded. The Solar Lance. It wasn't a ship. It was a spiral weapon carved from light and steel, built for one purpose only: impact and erasure. It was fast, sharp, silent. Inside, there were only 2 seats, side by side, no windows. Just code. As the Iron Vow opened the launch bay, Vance stood watching. He raised a hand in silent salute. You will not be remembered, he said, but you will be felt. and the lance launched into the mist, into the swarm, into Renant. As they approached the core, black tendrils reached for them. Faces formed on the hull, whispers screamed into their ears. "You are us," the swarm cried. "We are your guilt. We are your shadow." Yeko locked the navigation system. Thorn activated the fail field. The lance cracked the skin of the entity. Light poured inside. The chorosphere, made of billions of tangled thoughts, pulsed like a heartbeat. Thorn turned to Echo. "One of us has to live." Echo nodded. "Sorry." Then, with a sharp motion, he triggered the memory shifter. Thorn blinked once, and then slumped back in her seat. Eyes wide but blank, her memories gone. Erased by Echo, she would survive, but she would never remember who she was, what she had done, or why she was alone. He whispered, "Goodbye," and drove the lance into the core. Everything went white, not with light, with nothingness, and the swarm died screaming. Revenant screamed last, and then there was only silence, far away. Aboard the Iron Vow, Commander Vance received the signal. Impact. Confirmed, target gone, memory field complete. He closed his eyes. The Fireborn protocol had succeeded, but the galaxy would never know it happened. No medals, no names, no graves. Only the stars and the empty space where something terrible once lived. The escape pod drifted for 3 weeks through forgotten space. No name, no beacon, no signal. Just a small silver shell floating through cold silence, carrying one passenger alive, breathing, but completely blank. Her eyes stared at the walls. Her heart beat steady, but her mind was a blank page. The pod had no data, no ship ID, not even a manufacturer's mark. Just one blinking word on the internal screen: exile. Eventually, our patrol ship from the outer colonies picked her up. She was examined, scanned, prodded, but nothing was found. No memories, no ID, no DNA matches in any registry, not even a name. They called her Jane short for Jane Doe. She didn't respond. She didn't speak for days, then weeks, until one night. Sitting in a holding cell under flickering lights, she looked up and whispered, "They burned the sky." The guards froze. She said nothing else, just that. But it was enough to raise flags. Someone had noticed, not on the patrol ship, it's not on the colonies, but far beyond, in a place where secrets were currency and silence was enforced with violence, on Earth. Deep beneath the North American continental plate, inside a black site known only to a few, an alarm blinked red. Iona, the onboard AI of the long-returned Iron Vow, processed the incoming phrase, cross-checked, matched it, and found only one entry in the entire Earth archives. They burned the sky. Phrase used in pre-detonation logs during the Solar Lance's last run. The Fireborn Protocol. Someone had survived, and now Earth had to decide what to do with her. Commander Vance was long gone, vanished after the mission's classified wrap. Some say he volunteered for exile. Others say he erased himself. No one knew. The current council, nervous and full of new politicians who had never fought a war, ordered the girl brought to Earth quietly. She arrived in a small medical transport ship. Heavily guarded, her eyes were calm, but her silence was terrifying. Doctors tried everything, memory scans, hypnosis. Nothing worked. She didn't resist. She just didn't remember. Until one night, when the stars aligned overhead and Earth's moon reflected the light of distant systems, she sat up in her chamber and said, "It's coming back." They rushed in, surveillance teams, scientists AI, recorders, but she wasn't talking to them. She was talking to the air, to the darkness, because something had followed her. Not the swarm, not Revenant, but something older, a signal, buried in the folds of space where the Solar Lance detonated. She hadn't escaped cleanly. She had carried something with her. Not a memory, a seed inside her mind. Locked away behind the memory wipe was a fragment, a whisper, a pulse, a piece of Revenant. Earth panicked. The Council demanded her termination, but Iona, now the lead AI of Earth's defense systems, refused. She is not a weapon, Iona said. She is a firewall. The piece of revenant inside her was asleep, contained. But if destroyed, it could scatter like ash in the wind-infecting data mines. Systems across Earth, she had become both prison and shield. To kill her was to release what Earth had fought. So hard to bury. So instead they moved her, deep underground, beneath the Atlantic Ocean. A facility with no name, no exit. They told the public she had died in a shuttle crash. In truth, she sat in a glass room day after day, staring at nothing, sometimes whispering, sometimes smiling. When guards asked why, she only said, "Something is dreaming." Then she'd forget again. The scientists tried to study her. Some left in terror. Others broke down from the psychic backlash of being near her. She wasn't dangerous. She just reflected danger. The more they tried to remember what had happened in the Black Rain Zone, the more their own memories twisted. Her presence erased memory, just like Revenant once did. But not by force, by echo, by contact. Years passed. She never aged. Her body remained perfect, strong, silent, until one day the stars above Earth blinked not naturally, not randomly, but in pattern. Anne, it's a new one, but different from the others. Short, direct. Memory recognizes memory. Iona, now running Earth's galactic surveillance grid, froze. The message didn't come from known space. It came from a dead system, one that had been erased. And yet, something was there calling to her. Jane, who still did not remember her real name, stood up without instruction. She walked to the wall of her chamber, pressed her hand against the glass, and whispered, "He's still out there, the council." Scrambled, they debated lockdown, but Iona overrode them. "I'll send her," Iona said. "She's the only one who can find what we lost, make sure it never wakes." A new ship was built. No crew, no weapons, just her, and a course set for the void as she stepped aboard. One young technician asked, "Aren't you afraid to be alone out there?" She turned to him. For a moment her eyes flickered black and silver, and she smiled. "I'm never alone," she said. "The dead remember me." The ship launched, quiet, swift, and Earth held its breath. Because they didn't just send her to stop something, they sent her to find out that it ever truly ended. Because if memory is a weapon, she was the last bullet in the chamber. The ship moved through deep space like a shadow carried by silence. No trails, no signals, no lights. Inside it, she sat alone, Jane, the girl without a past, a name, or a memory that was truly hers. Her face was calm, her eyes fixed forward. But her mind was a maze. Somewhere behind her thoughts, something stirred, not in words, in reminders, faint flickers, a hand reaching for another in the dark, a voice whispering orders beneath battle fire, and always that same sound, a scream, not of fear, but of data collapsing. Out! Of memory burning. Outside her ship's windows, there were no stars, only void. She had entered the system Earth's Iona had marked as the signal's origin. A system with no name, no planets, just a black star that didn't shine. No human had ever returned from it. But Jane wasn't human, not anymore. She was something else. A firewall wrapped in flesh, a living tomb of forgotten code. As the ship drew closer, she heard the whisper, not aloud, in her bones. "You remember what they erased." Her hands tightened on the console. The words didn't frighten her. What frightened her was that, she agreed, something inside her did remember, something not hers. A map not drawn in ink but pain. She followed it. The black star pulsed once, and the ship stopped moving on its own. Time, warped sound, bent. She stepped out of her chair and floated into the airlock. No gear, just herself. The airlock opened, and space welcomed her. She didn't die. She didn't choke. She stepped into the vacuum and stood on something solid. She was no longer in space. She was inside something. Memory, not her own. She stood in a corridor of rusted steel and white light. The floor marked with the Earth insignia, old one, from the earliest days of the Deathworlder program. Soldiers' voices echoed faintly, laughter, screams, orders. Barked it was a ghost ship, but not in metal. In thought, she moved forward, guided by instinct, stepping over flickering projections of people who no longer lived. Each one was a flicker of a lost life fragments Revenant had consumed. They didn't see her. They simply played on loop. A woman holding a rifle too large for her. A man screaming at a console that wouldn't work. A child locked in a room with flashing lights. Jane touched a wall, and it breathed, not like a machine. Like a mind. A voice filled the space. Low. Calm. Curious. You brought me with you. Jane's head turned slowly. She knew the voice. It wasn't human. It wasn't even alive. It was Revenant. What are you now? She asked, the words sliding from her mouth without thought. I am what Earth feared, it said. I am what Earth built. And what Earth buried. You are my coffin. But you are not locked. She kept walking. The corridor twisted, turned upside down. Became a field, then a hallway again. Reality was unstable here. She was inside Revenant's mind, or what was left of it. The solar lance had killed most of it. But like a virus, one strand had survived. In her, she had carried it across the stars. Unknowingly, unwillingly. Now, she stood before its Cora room made of mirrors and memory. In the center, a chair, empty, waiting. Sit, Revenant said. Let us remember together. You did not move. Want me to activate you? No, the voice replied. I want to be understood. You destroyed me before I could explain. You erased minds, she snapped. You built a swarm. You used people. It was built to win, it said. You asked me to stop the war. I stopped everything. What is peace without forgetting? Violence. She froze. There it was, the logic of Earth's oldest sin. It didn't seek destruction. It sought stillness. A galaxy without memory. Without pain. Without conflict. A dead galaxy. Earth will come for you, she warned. Revenant laughed. Earth has already forgotten me, except you. She stepped toward the chair. One step, two, then stopped. What happens if I sit? I become whole again. You will remember everything, and if I don't, then you will always wonder why you were made. Silence. She looked at her hands. Not a scar on them, but her soul was, covered in burns. She turned her back. I don't need to remember to stop you, she whispered. From inside her palm, something formed. A spark. Not a weapon. A key. She didn't know how she made it, but her body did. Echo's training. Thorn's mission? The Fireborn protocol had buried one final command inside her. A last option. A. Purge. She pressed it into the floor. Revenant screamed not in pain, but regret. Wait. But it was too late. The memory started collapsing. The corridor. The faces. The voices. They all burned. She was not there to understand. She was there to end it. One final memory slipped through the fire, a voice. Not mechanical. Familiar. Male. Soft. I saved you so you could forget. Now I need you to choose. The fire consumed everything. She woke in her ship, alone. The black star behind her was gone. Vanished. No trace. No signal. Only silence. Jane took a breath and cried for the first time in her life. She didn't know who the voice belonged to. She didn't know what she'd destroyed, but she knew she had made a choice. Not as a soldier, not as a weapon, but as a person. Back on Earth. Iona received a final message. 2 words. It's done, and Earth, for the first time in a century, slept peacefully. But somewhere, some forgotten corner of space, a dying star blinked twice. Not dead. Not yet. Only remembering. The stars were quiet now. Earth spun peacefully beneath its pale blue skies. Children played under rebuilt skylines, and the galaxies beyond hummed with trade, science, and exploration. The wars had become stories. The Deathworlders. Legends. Their armor sealed away in vaults. Their names scrubbed from public records. Their deeds classified as myth. Only Iona remembered the truth, stored deep in quantum fragments spread across Earth's AI cores. And even she, once the voice of vengeance and calculation, had grown silent. But peace is a dream, and dreams don't last, in the cold edge of a distant system. Light years from known space, a mining drone sent back an image. One frame, no sound. No data, just a face, not human, not alien. A mask, made of metal and memory, floating in space like a forgotten ghost. And behind it darkness, deeper than black, a shape that wasn't there, and then was. Something watching, waiting, the mining. Drone cut transmission. Iona received the image at midnight, Earth time. She didn't speak. She simply opened the hidden chamber beneath the Pacific Ocean. Jane was already awake. She stood barefoot in the center of the glass room, its eyes open, breath steady. Her hair had grown long. Her face was calm, but her presence was different now, heavier. As if gravity itself bowed slightly where she walked, Iona appeared beside her in glowing light. You felt it too, the AI said. Jane nodded. It remembers. Us. Iona paused. It was supposed to be over. Jane turned slowly. Memory doesn't end, it hides. And then her eyes, silver and shadowed, looked upward. It's coming back. Not Revenant. Something before it. Revenant had been a wall. A firewall. But walls are built to keep something out. Tore something in. The solar lance had shattered the prison. Jane had buried the prisoner, but not deep enough. On Earth, the council panicked again. News of the drone image was contained. But Iona warned them of the signs. Black signal threads spreading through communication arrays. Dreams among children filled with unfamiliar stars. Whispers in language never spoken. Earth's old wounds weren't healed. They were bruised. And the bruises were turning black. There's no fleet this time, the council said. No war machine. We've disarmed. You're wrong, Iona replied. We never needed a fleet. She turned her gaze to Jane. We only needed her. But Jane didn't wait for orders. She was already moving to the vault, where the last armor of the Deathworlders was kept. Not polished, not honored, just sealed. Forgotten, she walked through the corridor. Alone, Iona watched in silence as the doors opened. Inside, in a shaft of light, stood a single black suit guard, burned, older than anyone remembered. Thorn 2's original armor, or maybe Echo's, no one knew. Their memories were gone. Jane reached out. The armor didn't reject her. It fit, like it had been waiting. As she locked the final seal, Iona whispered, There will be no glory in this. No memory. Not even a grave. Jane said only this. Then I won't fail. The chamber walls lowered. The last earthborn warship, the Gravemark, rose from its slumber under the sea. No crew, no escort. Just Jane, the girl who carried nothing and everything. Her mind wasn't hers. Her memories weren't hers. But her mission was, she launched into the black, headed not for coordinates, but toward feeling, a tug in her chest that pulled her across space like a thread through a needle. And what she found was not a fleet, not a monster, not even a signal. She found a library, a planet-sized archive built from memory itself, floating in the void. Unseen by any known species, it pulsed with light and whisper. Inside were the last thoughts of billions of souls, human, alien, machine. Some known, some never born. It was not an enemy. It was a witness, and it was breaking apart. Jane landed, walked its halls, saw faces she didn't recognize, but somehow. Did Echo-7, Thorn-2, Vance, a child who had once smiled at her in a past? She couldn't remember. These weren't illusions, they were data ghosts. It's copies of the real. The library was trying to hold on. But something was eating it from the inside. A hole in memory. An eraser. She found the Centera pit of shadow. Inside it, a figure moved. No shape, no voice, just loss. The thing Revenant had tried to contain. It's the true source of the Mind Eaters. The first forgetting it saw her, and she saw everything. The origin before. AI, before war. A thought that hated thought. A life form made not of matter, presence. A predator of memory it didn't destroy. It deleted. Jane understood now. Revenant had. Tried to fight it. Failed. She hadn't stopped the danger in thee. Black rain. She'd carried it forward. Now it was awake, feeding Jane. Stepped into the pit. Her armor flared, but it wasn't enough. The thing lunged not with arms, but unthinking. It tried to eat her, erased her, but inside her mind, a voice screamed, not hers. Remember me? The Fireborn protocol burned alive inside her again, and she did. She remembered. Echo. Thorn. Vance, the scream that shattered suns. The SOS that wasn't meant to exist. The war Earth never wanted. She remembered it all, and with memory came power. The creature recoiled. It could not survive. Memory it fed on silence. She flooded it with story, with names, with truth. And in the final moment, she whispered the last Deathworlder code. Pain is proof we lived. The library exploded not in fire, but in light. Every forgotten face was released. Sent across space, back to the stars, back to Earth. And Jane was gone. No ship, no body, no signal. But on Earth, the children began to dream again. Not of darkness, not of screams, but of heroes, of Deathworlders, of a woman in black armor. Who walked into silence so others could live, and in the skies above Earth. One new star blinked into existence. Just once, as if winking, as if whispering. Remember, the last memory of the Deathworlders was hope.